is a car going to cost in the United States after these tariffs have been pushed through? How much more is a car going to cost?
The estimates here are a little bit all over the place, but just yesterday, our Keith Naughton in the Detroit Bureau reported on a recent study done by
President Trump signing an order just a few hours ago for a 25% tariff on auto imports taking effect next Wednesday. Let's take a listen.
Anderson Economic Group, which is a group based in Michigan that regularly does these sort of economic impact studies. Roughly $4,000 for a crossover SUV and the incremental cost to build that.
What we're going to be doing is a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff. We started off with a 2.5% base, which is what we were at.
Trump just slapped a 20% tariff on Canadian nickel, and now Ottawa is firing back. The $3.9 billion nickel flow that kept Detroit's EV factories alive, Canada is choking it. Suddenly, America's electric cars are short of the metal that literally powers their batteries. But here's the twist. Canada isn't just mad, they're smart. Export taxes, carbon tracking, investment in LFP batteries, a 4-move counterstrike. The question is, did Trump just hand Canada the leverage to walk away from the U.S. market forever? Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Trump thought he was swinging at China with that 20% tariff on electric vehicles, but all he really did was punch Detroit in the gut. Instead of hitting Beijing's car industry,
that would be passed on to the consumer. In this study, one of the electric vehicles looked at estimated about a $12,000 increase. So this is, of course, already a situation where we've seen.
So Bloomberg senior editor Derek Warbank joins us now, along with our China correspondent Min Min Lo. Derek, let's start with you. What do we know so far when it comes to autos and pharma?
Dramatic run-up in prices for vehicles in the U.S. already, where we're approaching, on average, it costs you $50,000 to buy a new vehicle. So this is sort of the last thing that the consumer is looking for, I would suspect.
Well, I think in the auto sector, there's a couple of key things that are worth noting, and one of those is that this doesn't just apply to automobiles as fully assembled. It also applies to auto parts as well. That was something that was being very closely watched.
Grumpy Trumpy blindsided the same American automakers he always boasts about saving. It's like trying to throw a rock at your neighbor's window but breaking your own windshield instead. Detroit is gagging, Canada is smirking, and even Ford's beloved truck lineup is now coughing from that very expensive smoke. Every year, around $3.9 billion worth of nickel travels south from Sudbury. That nickel is refined, polished, and moved to battery makers across the Midwest. Without it, Ford and GM can't build packs with the range and strength their electric cars need. Think of it as fuel flowing to a gas pump. Cut it off and the engines stop. Except here, it isn't gasoline America is running out of, it's the metal that stores energy. Trump bragged about energy independence, but his tariff just made his own car industry nickel dependent. On paper, the tariff sounded strong. 20%, nice round number, makes Trump feel tough at the podium. But in reality, that decision just jacked up the price of EV batteries by nearly $1,000 each. Suddenly, that family who thought trading in their gas guzzler for a shiny new electric car can't make the math work anymore. Why? Because Donnie Diapers wanted a quick applause line about crushing foreign competition. What he crushed instead is the chance for average Americans to afford an electric vehicle. Inside the assembly plants, it's worse.
Across the market, that there's going to be some real sort of resistance to these increased prices.
So that's the impact on the US consumer. You're looking, though, at the impact on the European automakers this morning. Just talk us through why that's happening.
Now, the details of how this is going to work, particularly within the context of the North American supply chain, is something that still is a little bit in the works. There are a lot of parts.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is not going to be necessarily a situation where there are any winners, right? There's even Ford, where you have a situation where this is the automaker that employs the most U.S. workers, that has the most U.S. production.
Shipped between the U.S. and Canada and the U.S. and Canada and Mexico and et cetera, back and forth in the production of some of these vehicles. And so how that's going to be treated is something to see going forward. But you only have to look.
Imagine an oxygen tank getting shut off off while you're still trying to breathe. That's what the line floors look like. Workers keep pushing, machines keep running, but every battery costs more than the last one. Automakers are basically coughing up cash just to get a car into the showroom. It's survival mode, and all because the orange turd wanted to wave a tariff stick around without reading what he was actually hitting. Canada's response could have been a temper tantrum. They could have shouted, stamped their feet, and done a big dramatic performance for the cameras. Instead, Ottawa decided to pull out a chessboard. Calm, straight-faced, not loud, just a neat little move that flipped the script. They placed a 15% export tax on nickel heading to the U.S. It wasn't chaos, it wasn't fire, it was a lock on the supply lines. Canada basically told the U.S., oh, you think you can play games with market access? Try paying a premium on the very metal you need first. What makes the whole thing sting more is Canada's carbon tracking system. The nickel from Ontario isn't just metal dug out of the ground. It comes with paperwork, proof, a green certification. Automakers in Europe and Asia love buying it because they can show off lower carbon footprints on their batteries. So when American car makers pull it across the border now, they don't just pay for the nickel, they pay for the green badge too. Canada made their nickel a premium good while every U.S. automaker pays like they're importing fine wine. The fallout on the industry is hitting fast. GM has already told investors they expect about 50,000 fewer EV sales.
Their CEO just a few weeks ago was talking about the idea that these tariffs would blow a hole in the American auto industry. Alluding to the idea that Trump has talked about wanting to look out for the American auto industry.
Impacts to GM and Ford and Stellantis and et cetera, to see, and then as well the Asian reaction to some of those car makers, to see the effect.
And instead what we've gotten is a lot of costs and a lot of worries, a lot of reasons for concern. So this is a situation where, Stellantis.
Ursula von der Leyen came out and had comments. Mark Carney came out and had comments. They are what you would expect, disappointed, etc. It remains to be seen exactly how there will be a counterpunch, if there will be a counterpunch.
In 2026, that's billions sliced off revenue projection. The F-150 Lightning, the truck that was supposed to be the poster child of electric America, now looks like a luxury toy because the sticker price keeps going up. Trying to roll out an affordable EV is starting to feel like trying to sell bottled water during a flood. You've got supply, but not at a price anyone wants. So Trump, in trying to look like a trade warrior, ended up torpedoing the American EV dream. He didn't wound China, and he sure didn't hurt Canada. The pain is entirely homegrown. Ottawa isn't bleeding, Detroit is. The silence in Washington right now is the sound of battery plants gasping. And here's the kicker. Canada isn't even interested in staying locked in this fight. They're already walking their nickel shipments across new maps, lining up deals not in Michigan but in Seoul and Hamburg. Canada didn't just clap back. They used Trump's tariff as a reason to move $1.8 billion worth of nickel exports straight to Europe and Asia. While Detroit pays extra, places like Seoul and Hamburg are now happy to scoop up that green Canadian nickel. What did the U.S. gain? Nothing but sticker shock on the F-150 Lightning. Here's the part that stings. America is risking its closest mineral ally just so Donnie Diapers can look tough at a rally. So ask yourself, is his bluster really worth it? If the U.S. keeps slamming doors, how long before friends stop knocking?